All right, Chung, you want to do the first question?
Yeah, sure. So, first question from us is, what is your favorite story from the arcade days?
Mm, My favorite story in arcade days. I guess if you think about arcade days, one, my parents definitely told me don't go to arcades. A lot of gangs go there, lots of fights and everything. But actually, like I met all my best friends from there, people that were also like the best men of my wedding. Were from that arcade. Still, but I would say my favorite story is probably there was this one time during Memorial Weekend. I showed up to the arcade. I was 14 years old at this time, and I usually go there like 10 a.m. This is like during like Memorial Weekend where no school. And I saw a bunch of people outside, and uh, and I was really surprised because normally the arcade is probably like it's just a token guy and me, and we're just playing. So I asked everybody, why is everybody here so early? Like I'm so excited to see that there's so many people. They're like, we're going to a tournament in New Jersey called East Coast Championship 5. And there's like a bunch of like people from all parts of America coming to this tournament. So I decided to go with them. I didn't tell my family about it. So I was, I was literally 14 years old at this time. So I just went to New Jersey. It was a place called The Break in New Dunellen, Jersey, which is like an hour-ish away from New York City. And this is when tournaments were played on arcade cabinets. So there was no consoles, like there's no like PlayStation 5s or Xbox or PCs to play these games. So the tournament took really long and it was already past midnight. And there was no more trains left to go home. And I was a broke boy. So I couldn't like take a taxi. There's no Ubers. Um, so then, I had a beeper. So I called my dad and I was like, hey, yeah, I can't come home because I'm staying in my friend's house in New Jersey. He was so upset, so upset. Um, but I had so much fun because I got fifth in that tournament for Street Fighter 3 Third Strike and Marvel's Capcom 1 over like 400 people. It was like my first tournament ever. Um, and then it was a big achievement because the only people I lost to were the people I couldn't beat at my arcade. Like I beat people from like Virginia, Chicago, California. So it gave me the itch to wanting to go to more tournaments just because I took a risk and went to that tournament that one random weekend. I did, you know, I suffered some whips though when I got home, that's for sure. But other than that, I that was probably my favorite arcade story just because it's like I never been to different arcades. I only know what I knew like just Chinatown Fair. So knowing that there was other arcades that were really awesome and lots of other people were trying to play fighting games as well and traveled for this, that was probably really fun story.
Did you start to explore other arcades after this event?
Yeah, after this event, I just started going to different tournaments, the University Pinball in Philadelphia was one. There was Arcade UFO in Texas, Nickel City in Chicago. I know in California they had like Sun Hills Golfland, um, and there was like a Folsom, California. One of the world tournaments were held in the Folsom Arcade. Japan has a big, vibrant arcade as well too. So yeah, it was just really just traveling and seeing the culture and seeing other people play was really fun.
How'd you convince your parents to let you go to all these places?
Okay, so I don't want you to do the same thing, but I definitely lied. I actually had a alibi where I had my friends say like, yeah, he's at my house and everything like that while I'm like traveling around America on a plane by myself. So yeah, that was how I did it. The planes they didn't check IDs back in the day. I mean, yeah, I mean obviously now things are different. You have to have kind of like parental guidance or like some type of form, I think, for traveling now. But they didn't check me when I was 14, 15. So that's how I convinced them.
Okay, the next question we have is who's your favorite American player and Japanese?
Mm. My favorite American player of all time. I'm not sure if his name came into your class for America is John Choi. He doesn't really play Third Strike at all, but he's more of a classic Street Fighter 2 player. So from other variety of Street Fighter games, he's like that one guy. If you were like trying to see like who's the best Ryu player, like he's known to be like America Ryu. For Japanese player, my favorite player is Momochi. He is really awesome. He plays Third Strike. He won lots of tournaments for Third Strike in Japan. He played a variety of characters, and he's still playing now. And he owns his own esports team now in Japan called Shinobiism. So he's killing it for sure in Japan.
And if these two players had to fight in a boxing match, who would win?
I think John Choi would beat Momochi just because I mean he's kind of more built. So that's what it comes down to. He's just more built.
I'm just hearing that NA's the best then. All right, now I want to open up any questions from you guys.
Yeah.
All right, Todd?
Go ahead and check them out.
Yeah, just come stand up.
Alright, sounds good. How's it going, Justin?
What's up?
For this class, like we're all beginners and stuff, and like they kind of decided to pick like Third Strike as like our beginner like type thing to teach fundamentals. I was kind of wondering, like from you, like what fighting games would you recommend as like someone like complete beginner learn all the fundamentals, and maybe like what fighting games you'd branch out off into like after that.
So if you're trying to learn fundamentals of and kind of like more of a methodical play, I would say Capcom versus SNK 2. That game is really awesome, not because of the characters, but because they have a groove system where you can choose a different groove from a different Street Fighter game or SNK game. So, for example, like there's C groove, A groove, P groove. P groove is called Pair groove, which is more of like Third Strike. C groove is like kind of like from another Street Fighter game, kind of like Street Fighter Alpha series. And A groove is also from Alpha 3. So it gives you different mechanics to experiment with. So it's kind of like a complete course of like, oh, this is from all these variety of like Street Fighter games and SNK games. I can learn how to like it's like playing catch up by playing those games. And also when you hit the buttons, it feels really good. Like the moves come out fast with punishing it feels amazing. Just walking around, the movement doesn't feel stiff as well too. So I would probably say CVS2. But if you do enjoy Third Strike, it's an amazing game because Third Strike is one of those games, at least in our community, where if you're a Third Strike player, you only play Third Strike and every other game is trash. While if you are a fighting game player that plays variety of games, you might say Third Strike is overrated. So it's kind of there's two type of gamers, and there's obviously the rare third type where they play everything and they're like, yeah, Third Strike's cool. All these other fighting games are cool as well.
Oh, thank you.
No problem, man.
All right. Your child really wants to get into fighting games. What controller do you give them and what advice do you give them?
Okay. So I'm assuming everybody here is playing either pad or joystick. Is what do you guys playing on?
So it's like half hitbox, half pad. There's like one stick user. One stick.
Oh, so wait, you have people playing leverless on Third Strike?
Yeah, it's like half of them on left list.
All right. I tried leverless on Third Strike, and I think leverless on Third Strike is really hard. I think it's pretty difficult. But leverless controllers is like for my child, for like if they're playing like a modern fighting game like Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8, I would give them a leverless controller because it's so easy to learn how to throw Hadouken on a leverless controller. Right? You just press down and forward and punch. That's so easy compared to a joystick where I have done fighting game lessons and people could not do fireball for like the life of them. I would spend 1 hour just like teaching them, like looking at their hands, like what are they doing wrong? Why can't they go from down to forward? Like, like in that motion. But leverless is just so much easier because it's like 3 taps of a button in order to get it out. But yeah, I tried Third Strike on leverless and I found it really hard. Maybe it's because I play Chun-Li, so I have to really focus on a lot of like down forward movements. So it gets very tiring for me compared to joystick where it feels more comfortable and I guess less taxing on my hand.
So what advice would you give your daughter, right, if she wanted to play fighting games?
If you want to play fighting games, I mean, I would probably teach her how to. I would probably want to give her advice on how to perform all the special moves first, because I can't. I'm not going to be like, all right, this is like +5 on block. You know, if you press the if you press this at the wrong time, you can get punished, and you know that's just too much for a beginner, especially for a 5-year-old as well too. I want to teach her how to do special moves, supers, because you have to get them interested first. So I think seeing some type of like wow effect explosion or a super combo that goes into an animation, that's kind of the first step for me to at least teach her. But right now she only wants to play Super Mario Wonder, so I'm losing there.
Wait, so what do you think is the best like first fighting game that has that flashy moments that are pretty easy to execute?
Hmm. Best fighting game with flashy moments. Maybe maybe Ultra Street Fighter 4. I think Street Fighter 4, that game came out in 2009. It actually was the game that brought kind of revived the fighting game community, because before 2009, the fighting game community, like, because I'm pretty sure you guys know what Evo is now, but Evo in 2008, it was like dead, like completely, like probably less than like 3,000 people showed up to that event. So it was like, in my head, I thought at that time, yeah, fighting game is over. I'm about to go back to school. That's like that was what I was already saying in my head. And then Street Fighter 4 came out in Japan and everyone's getting into it. GameStop ran this like giant like national tournament for GameStop. They had the Jabberwockies play at their finals for the Street Fighter 4 tournament, and it got really big and it got to the point where everyone showed up that played in GameStop tournament showed up at Evo. So Evo had like this giant record attendance because of Street Fighter 4. And I think it's the reason why, because of the facial expressions, the announcer, the music, the ultras. Ultras are like the supers of the game, where they go into these crazy sick animations, and it was just a really beautiful game at that time. And I would say if you were like if you wanted to get wowed, I would say Street Fighter 4 is probably a good start for that.
Oh yeah, anyone here have a question? Keita?
Yeah, I just did.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
A quick question about like kind of mental. When you're preparing for like a tournament, and then also like right before a match, how do you try and like, I don't know, like hype yourself up or like calm yourself down, or like how do you get into the mental state to be successful during the match? And then say for instance, if you like go down 1-0 or 2-0, how do you pick yourself up and make sure that you don't lose composure?
Hmm. So I think before any match, everyone's gonna like if you would get nervous, especially in a live event. There's live streaming, so many people watching you. Um, I try to play the match in my head at first. So even if I know like, okay, this person plays Ken, right? So I would just kind of put the average Ken player in my head and how the match would go, and kind of like I guess it's kind of like shadow boxing, but in a fighting game term, in a fighting game way in your head. So I'm looking at that, thinking of it, and then now my brain is warmed up, knowing okay, this is what Ken can do, or this is what each character can do, right? So that's the first step. The second step is when I'm actually playing the actual match. How much does your opponent know? Like, because when you are a competitive fighting game player, in my how I think of any player I fight, I just think of them as, oh, they are not a good fighting game player because they might not know like the frame data, they might not know my setup. It's more of like you want to knowledge check them, because if they don't know the rules of specific things, then you kind of abuse that until they can show you that they adapt to a specific situation. So let's say if you did a standard thing where like you grab them 2 times in a row. Why don't you grab them 3 times in a row or 4 times in a row, right? Why would you stop grabbing them? I would just keep grabbing the opponent until they decide to tech the throw, right? But then once I get them annoyed and I see them tech the throw, that means they're always going to assume that I'm going to go for the throw again. That's when you can force them to make a preemptive mistake where they grab first, but they kind of just whiff it in front of your face. They just miss, and you punish that throw tech attempt that they're trying to do. So I guess that's kind of like how I go at it first, is trying to like kind of also annoy my opponents with kind of like the knowledge I have and see what I can make them do preemptively instead of reactively.
Thank you.
No problem.
Did this annoying playstyle get you into any fights when you were back in your activity?
Yeah, actually, um, growing up in the arcade, I played this one dude and I beat him, and I would say I was 16 years old at this time, and I beat him really bad, and then he actually tased me like with a taser. Like it was on low setting, like I didn't fall on the ground or like whatever. But he tased me and I felt like this like, this like big jolt on like on my lower back. So yeah, so that's definitely what my play style um brings to the table back in the day. I had a few times where people would want to like fight or anything because they get annoyed and they can't do anything. Like like there was this unspoken rule in the early 2000s where like if you throw somebody, you have to give a throw back. Because throws are considered cheap in the arcade because you can't defend against it. So there were times where like when I was going to middle school and high school, like the people that I went to school with, they would throw it by accident, and then the other person would throw them back. And I'm like, wait, what is going on? Like, is this unspoken rule that you have to follow this in the arcade? It was like this random rule, and I guess if you don't give the throwback, fights could possibly happen or words can be exchanged.
All right, the next question is, was there ever a time in your life when you felt like you were the greatest player of all time?
No, I feel like I always tell people that I'm pretty bad at like um talking about my achievements. I don't know, it feels embarrassing. It's kind of uh like an Asian parent bragging for you. That's kind of how I feel. And um I actually and that actually happens now where like my mother-in-law will brag to her friends, and it's just I just hide. I just like hide under a table at that point because I don't know. I find it really embarrassing. I think I just rather let my actions or achievements just do the speaking instead of myself do the talking.
Does anybody else have questions?
Oh, yeah, hi, Justin.
What's up?
So I had a question just about like the YouTube side of things.
Yeah.
So what's your like number one piece of advice to somebody who's like trying to carve out their own audience or like just make it in like the sphere of gaming on YouTube?
Mm. So I've been pushing lately on YouTube, right? I've been going pretty hard on it lately. And I would say at first I kind of was like copying like everybody, like what everybody else is doing. And it's like doing okay. And also like if you have a established name, it obviously helps a lot. It boosts up quite a bit for me. But overall, I think once I started kind of stepping, just thinking outside the box of like what kind of content I want to do, um, that's kind of when I would say my YouTube has done a lot better. So, for example, is like I watch a lot of kind of random YouTube videos that's not FGC related. So there was this guy, I watched him play ping pong, and he would just bring a table like to the street, and like if you beat him in like a race to five for ping pong, he'll give you $100. And I was like, why don't I do that for fighting games? See how that goes, right? So I did that, and once I did that video where like if you beat Akuma from Alpha 1, which is really extremely difficult, I'll give you like $100. And that video is like close to like 2 million views. And yeah, it really was like, wow, that was unexpected. I didn't know it would give me kind of like those type of views, but it's kind of like a few things where there's nostalgia in there because a lot of people played this game back in the day. You also see the human element of just like, oh, like you want to cheer for them or you just want to like bash on them like, oh, they suck or whatever, right? But I think it's one of those things where it forces a storyline where you're invested. So I think that's kind of my new goal now is to like focus on those type of YouTube videos, like I would say the hard to do ones. And then there's also times where I still do like easy stuff, like I hop on Fightcade if it's a good match, I put it on YouTube because it's a great match, right? And that's still I would say that's considered like I consider it as like easy content to do. And because once you establish a base, outputting is the most important part in gaming.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, I have a question.
What's up?
What is a fighting game that you wish had taken off more in popularity?
Popularity. Fighting game that okay. So so Capcom games has always done extremely well in the competitive space. Like there's always like when you're on Twitch or YouTube, they always do well. Tournaments, people show up for it. There's $1 million prize pool for Street Fighter 6, right? So that's like huge. I would say I wish SNK games took off like much harder. Do you guys know what SNK games are? Like what kind of characters are in there? Like Fatal Fury, King of Fighters, like if you play Smash, you know Terry Bogard, he's in there. So he's from he's a SNK character. So I would say so many people don't even know like that side. They're because they were like the arcade version. They were like Capcom's rival in the arcade. Like now, Capcom's rival in the space for console games are like either like Tekken or Mortal Kombat. But in the arcade, at least for like in the Eastern scene, it was SNK. But SNK games never took off on the Western side, like in America. I'm not sure why. It just never took off. I always thought they were really cool, but for sure, growing up in arcade, those machines never got any love. Like they were just always empty. So, and all the Capcom games are the more popular ones. So I would say I rather wish I wished SNK games took off a lot more.
Were you a fan of KOF like back in the day?
I was a fan of KOF. I would say a lot of my friends like from like Chinese school played King of Fighters. It was because it in China SNK games are very popular. So I wish it was more popular just because it's a really fun franchise. I guess maybe learning 3 characters is very hard compared to just learning one. So that's probably the reason why I think.
What was like your main KOF and what was your team in it?
My main King of Fighters was King of Fighters 98. That was probably my favorite one. And I think it's a lot of people's favorites, or at least top 3. And my characters were Tensu, Orochi Yashiro, and Blue Mary. Yeah,
Is
those
that
are some those are some interesting names.
Everyone seems to agree they're pretty hype.
Oh, more time. How do you deal with the pressure of like being the favorite to win, in like situations?
Oh, I guess I thrive off the pressure. It's more of like there was like East Coast versus West Coast rivalry. So because Evo was in the was made in like California and the West Coast, and I'm from New York, there was a lot of boos. Like because it's like, you want your West Coast scene to win, California to win. So if you can actually watch some old school match videos and you can hear the boos in the crowds when my name gets called. Um, so yeah, I would say for me, it's more of just like, damn, they don't like me, so I guess I'll just shut them up. That type of thing. That was kind of my mentality about it. And I guess it never really bothered me because I was so invested in just like playing. Like I thought that playing people outside of my arcade was the coolest thing in the world because like there was no such thing as like internet Now you could just play, you could hop on a game, play rank match, you play somebody around the world. It's so cool, right? It's so easy now. But before, like meeting somebody from like a different region, a different coast, a different city, different like continent, different country, it was very, very, very rare. So to me, it's like even though California, like a lot of California players at the time were booing me, I still had the time of my life. So I guess I didn't really pay attention to them.
Hello, where am I? Hello.
What's up?
So one thing we didn't talk about yet, I'm curious about, that in today's fighting game era, there's a lot of anime games that are really popular now too. So like, how's it been for you with your history at the FGC, kind of to see how anime games have gone throughout history to where they are now?
Mm. So yeah, I mean there's been lots of anime games like since like early 2000s with like Melty Blood or just kind of like doujin fighting games. Now I would say they're more popular because of Guilty Gear Strive. I would say Guilty Gear Strive kind of put anime games on the map because of like, we were in the pandemic, everyone was kind of just stuck at home, they couldn't go out. So Guilty Gear Strive was like kind of like that one fighting game where yeah, our netcode is perfect. Our netcode is so awesome. Because before COVID, netcode for fighting games were really trash unless you're playing on Fightcade. So now Guilty Gear Strive, so many people were playing Guilty Gear Strive. I was playing Guilty Gear Strive, and pretty much everybody else, like there was nothing else to do. We couldn't travel to tournaments because everything about our tournament scene was offline. So we like lost that ability to travel around the world to compete like for a prize. So we decided to just play at home, and Guilty Gear Strive really put that together. And I think after Guilty Gear Strive, then all these other games, like anime fighting games, started to implement rollback in there as well. And I think it really caused like a big anime boom of like more people trying out like anime fighting games, even though they're kind of intimidating. Um, Once you get past like that hill and able to do like really cool, fun combos, it becomes super fun.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
Hi, Justin.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask, from my experience, it seems like fighting games has been a primarily male-dominated space. And I was wondering, especially with the release of games like Tekken 8 and the growing popularity of fighting games, how you've seen the demographic or the community around fighting games change over time.
Mm. So Evo used to do this. Evo did this 1 year. They had a women's only Street Fighter 4 tournament, and it was actually very popular. I think they had over 200 women come to compete for that Street Fighter 4 tournament in Las Vegas, and Kayane, who's from France, won. And they gave her a gold stick. Literally, they treated it as like if you won, if a male person won Street Fighter 4 at Evo. It was really big. It was really cool. So that was really awesome. And I would say now with just fighting games getting more popular, so there are so many more female gamers now just playing fighting games, doing well. And I would say Kayane is probably the prime example of like, like if she can do it, then anybody else can do it, because she also like placed top 8 at Evo for Soul Calibur, did really well at MLG, and also won like her fair share of like world championships around the world in France. So now I think there's more women because of her, because she started like that kind of like revolution in 2010. But it is still male dominated. But I would say when we see kind of like either like a girl play or a little boy play, like an 8-year-old kid, everybody is rooting like for them because they want to see them like succeed, come back, play, and feel safe. And I think that's the most important part. I mean, I think last month, no, 2 months ago, there was a old elderly couple playing in Marvel's Capcom 3. They were like at least 70, 80 years old. And they entered a Marvel's Capcom 3 tournament. And the player that they were fighting was a top player, and all the crowd was just booing that top player. And then it was really funny actually. I think you could probably find an article about it online. But when it comes to just like offline community, like if you show up to a tournament, like people there will just show you love, even though it's male dominated. I would say the offline space for fighting in community is they're really really cool and really awesome.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, here's the question. Yeah, okay.
What's up?
Alright, so is there any advice that you hear people giving to like beginners or maybe even like intermediate players that you think is bad advice?
Bad advice.
Maybe there isn't it. Like maybe everybody's just
I mean, the only thing I can think of is like when I'm playing online and then as an interaction happened where I'm like, I don't know what happened, or like I'm confused on why like this and that happened. The Twitch chat, or at least like some chatter would tell me, oh, it's because of this, right? And then I read it and I'm like, no, it's not, right? So listen, and I go to training mode and prove to them like that's not the reason or that's not the point, that's not how you punish it. So there are a lot of people that online that will give you this type of advice, and they're just talking, but it's up to you to kind of like fact check it and just test it. Because if somebody tells you, yeah, if you block this move, you could just super as you know on block, and then you do it and then they block, you're gonna get upset, you're gonna get mad because that person gave you that wrong advice. So I would say you have to be the one to kind of like, okay, you get this piece of information, go to the lab, right? Go to training mode and see if it works. And if it does, awesome. If it doesn't, then you know that guy, to avoid that guy because he's just talking out of his ass.
Thank you.
Hi, Justin.
Hi.
So I'm gonna continue the boxing question about Raiden. So if you and Daigo were to fight, who would win?
Let's see. Is it just like regular, just like straight up boxing?
Yeah.
Straight up boxing? I don't know. I feel like, so knowing Daigo, he's a very sleepy guy. Like he sleeps a lot. Like, so I feel like he might fall asleep like while I'm boxing him. So I think I might win.
Daigo's old, man.
Like, no, literally he sleeps. Like I'm not even kidding. Even in like 2003, 2002, when you see him, like because we were playing tournaments and like before Evo was in Las Vegas, it was at like UCLA or Cal Poly. That was the venue that we were at. He would just be outside sleeping on the grass. Like, and I saw him recently. He came to a tournament in Vancouver and he was just sleeping on the table. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Oh, just the he just loves sleeping. That's just his thing. So he just might sleep.
Hi, Justin. So you're
Hi.
known for playing Marvel and Street Fighter, but you've also had a lot of success in other fighting games. I wanted to ask, which fighting games player base do you think is the best at winning in other fighting games?
Yeah, I guess that's so tough. Let's see. I would say, I guess right now I would probably have to say Street Fighter 4. Because when you think about it, all the games that gets kind of like that main game spotlight or what people care about is always the Street Fighter games. So going from Street Fighter 4 and then being a top player in Street Fighter 5 and then being a top player in Street Fighter 6 is pretty awesome and pretty big and pretty hard to do, because theoretically every Street Fighter game that Capcom has made, it's always a different game. Like, so like legacy skill does not carry over as much compared to like a Tekken game or a King of Fighters game where legacy skill carries over 90% of the time. Where like if you're playing Tekken from Tekken 5 and you're playing, let's say, like Steve Fox or like Nina Williams, if you play Tekken 6, you know her move list already. Or if you're playing Tekken 7, you still know her move list already. While Street Fighter, it's you can know the special moves, but the combos of each character are always going to be different from each Street Fighter game.
You like traveled all over the world, like did like every scene pretty much, it seems like. I was wondering what like specific cities have been your favorite to like compete in, whether it's like best local scenes, like best community, or just like you enjoy the city. And maybe specifically I'm from Vancouver, so like thoughts on Vancouver.
Oh, hmm. Let's see. The best scenes. So my favorite tournament I've ever been to, was actually in Kuwait. And that was in 2012. And like, I never been to like Kuwait or anywhere close to like Middle East, and all the people, all my friends, like, hey man, you know, just be careful out there, right? That's kind of like the misconception that people have when it comes to traveling like that far. But when I went there, everyone was so nice. The culture, the city, and just the people, and like the vibes, and just like going to eat in different places, so awesome, so nice. And they ran the tournament amazingly well. So it was like such a culture shock for me. And because of that, I went back like 2 years later when they wanted me to come back. So I thought that was really cool. So I feel like I would always be down to go to Kuwait just because my experience has been really awesome. And I would say probably another place I like to go to, just playing with the local scene, is anywhere in South America. And the reason why I say South America is because a lot of the players there cannot really afford to come to Evo or come to any big America tournament because of just how the currency system works, the wages, that it's really hard for them to save up money and everything like that. The cost of living is just completely different, right? Like, for example, if you wanted to buy an Xbox or a PlayStation there, it would be 3 times the market price because of just the export tax. So, we're pretty lucky to just buy it way cheaper compared to any players from South America. So when I go to South America and just play with the local scenes, you could kind of see the passion that they have in their eyes, how much they want it, and how much they appreciate just having the chance to play kind of like the players that they see on YouTube and Twitch. And they really go all out with the hospitality. Like, I went to um Peru, and they went so crazy with just like, they had like this barbecue where they had 100 players come in and just had their own kind of FGC barbecue, and I thought that was like really awesome, right? So yeah, I would say going to those places to play with like those players, it's kind of, it's like a dream come true for them. It's also a dream come true for me to have the ability to travel like that.
Thank you.
Who were some of the really good players that never really got to travel or get recognized by the international scene?
Hmm. Uh, I would say this one player from Chile. His name is Mysterio. He is like so amazing in King of Fighters and Street Fighter, and he just never had the opportunity because of just can't afford it, or the visa issue where he just gets denied the visa. And Chile is such a great, amazing country for FGC players. Like, one of the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 world champions is from Chile. His name is Kane Blue River, and they just have like huge talent over there. I would say there's one. Probably another one is like, I don't know if you heard about, so Korea used to be the GOAT, the best in Tekken. Now it's like Pakistan. And Pakistan like really came on the map because of Arslan Ash, and he could not travel for the longest time until he got his visa approved, um, by this player named Sherry Jenix, who owns Eat Fight Pass, where they help get visas for international players. And once he won Evo Japan for Tekken 7, like, everyone started talking about Pakistan, Pakistan, Pakistan. And then more Pakistan players got opportunities to travel and show off. And then now, like, I mean, people are saying Pakistan's the best in Tekken now, and they overthrew Korea, who were the Tekken lords since like Tekken 3. So they've been dominating Tekken, from 1999 all the way till 2018, until Pakistan came on the scene, and they kind of just like disrupted the flow. So I would say everywhere there's always those players that are just like a diamond in the rough. And given the shot, they can probably be a world champion because the motivation, the dedication, they want it so bad.
Let's go.
Last and short.
Hello, I was just gonna ask, what's the favorite combo to do?
What's my favorite what?
Combo,
Combo?
yeah, since you
Oh,
execute, what's your favorite?
my favorite combo to execute. That's actually kind of it's man, every game has really cool combos, but I guess my favorite is probably Marvel's Capcom 2. There's a character named Sentinel, and he has the most flashiest and hardest execution combos, at least in my opinion, in any fighting game ever. So trying to land these really crazy combos that would literally make your hand numb. They're very satisfying to do, but super hard. Like eventually I just get my left hand gets so tired now, maybe because I'm older. But watching it and trying to do it is always really fun. I could be there probably for like 2-3 hours trying to land this combo. Still can't do it, but as long as I have a little bit of progress, it'll make me feel good.
Alright. What's your least favorite matchup in all fighting games?
Least favorite matchup in all fighting games. It's probably against a when a grappler is a good character. Like so if you don't know what a grappler, it's a like one of those big wrestling characters that have like these devastating grabs. And the reason why I don't like fighting when they're good is because the way the development works for these archetypes of characters, you're supposed to struggle as a grappler, and then once you get in, you're rewarded with like really big damage. But when a fighting game gives all these grapplers these different tools of how to get around fireballs, how to win the neutral game, how to win the footsie games, and most of the time they have really strong like normals to like kind of like press and take advantage against other characters that are trying to keep them out. It actually gets me really upset because I'm playing 100%, keeping you out, making you guess wrong, and I'm taking like little bits of damage, right? Like 5%, 10%, 5%. But then they guess right one time, get in, I lose 50%. That's actually crazy. There's something wrong. There's something wrong with the developer making this grappler like so cheap. So yeah, that's probably my answer to that.
Right, who is the most broken grappler relative to the rest of the cast?
It's probably broken grappler. I would say Street Fighter 4 Zangief is pretty cheap because he has this move called Green Hand, where the green hand goes through fireballs, it nullifies fireballs. So that move was so cheap that once he lands that, you're in a 50-50 guess to lose 30 to 40%. So even if you jump out, right, and he calls you jumping out, he can catch that. So it's literally a 50-50. That move was so cheap. They never brought that move back for Zangief in Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 6. That's all I'm saying.
Here again. Did you ever go to Barricade back in the day? And if so, do you have any stories or memories you'd like to share from that time?
Barricade? Where's Barricade?
Barricade's in Berkeley. It used to be here.
Oh, no, I don't
years-
think I don't think I've ever been to Barricade because Northern California, besides the one time I was in Folsom, California, that was in 2001. So I don't think I've ever been to Barricade. Like, cause yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in New York, so I was like, I was in New York since 2000 until 2009, and then moved to SoCal in 2000 and end of 2009. So I never really visited NorCal too much for the arcades.
Sure, man.
Hi, Justin. In this class, really been talking about like basic neutral triangle and like how to play neutral for zoning. I'm wondering if there's any advanced neutral tips that you can offer us.
Basic, basic neutral strategies, meaning?
Oh, like we learned about the basic neutral triangle. So, are there any like advanced neutral tips that go beyond that you can help us offer us?
Advanced neutral. Let's see. I guess because you're playing Third Strike, depending on the character, jumping and dashing are so good. So if you're playing Ken, right? Just doing back, forward, like constantly, it's really fast and it's really hard for kind of people to check the dashes. So really abuse that for one. And also when you press a specific normal, let's say for Ken and Third Strike. Like how many people play Ken and Third Strike here? Only three? That's surprised. I thought he would.
One, two,
Okay.
three, four, five, five.
Okay. So, for example, if you do his crouching heavy kick, which is like his sweep, right? A long sweep, it's punishable on block. But if you do it at like kind of the tip, you cannot punish it. Well, like majority characters cannot punish it. So using like specific normals and understanding the amount of pushback that they give you, and while the like after the opponent blocks it, I would say really abuse that because those are the times where if you can master like okay, if I press it here, I know I cannot get punished. You can abuse that over and over. And then it will actually help you understand how other normals will work because all the pushback is pretty similar. Like if you press crouching light kick, it's a little bit pushback. Crouching medium kick is like medium, and then crouching heavy kick, it's like a big pushback. So knowing that against like the whole cast is like really important because that will actually help you play more safe.
Thank you.
Hi, Justin. So players like you and Punk are known for entering brackets in different games without knowing optimal combos or setups or any match knowledge. Still setting top players and taking names in the bracket. So I wanted to ask, how do you go about developing such strong fundamentals?
So at least so for Punk, I would say his reaction time is kind of off the charts. So anytime you just whiff like a button in front of his face or close to him, he's going to counter with a button of his own and then put you in a situation where you have to guess. So that's kind of his strategy. I would say my thing is more of just like, okay, playing defensive is kind of what I grew up on, and I think the art of defense is kind of gone now with modern fighting games. So a lot of times when you pick a specific character that's more of your archetype, so I like playing characters that are more defensive based or have lots of mobility. If they cannot find a way to exert their offense, then they are going to just, I would say, kill themselves. Um, so I always tell people, yeah, I let players kill themselves because they have to take the risk, and all I'm doing is just responding to what they're doing with my defensive attack. So if they can't break that wall, then I just kind of carry that over in every fighting game. Even if I'm playing a rush down character, I will play them more passively than aggressively.
I had a question about hit confirming. So
Yeah.
I was wondering if like when you're hit confirming, is it like always a reaction? Do you have like a read it's gonna hit? And how do you like get better at hit confirming? Is it just like playing the game more or like what?
So hit confirming definitely comes naturally when you play the game more, but also you kind of have to practice it as well too. So hit confirming was not a thing for majority of the pre-2009 era. The only character that can really hit confirm is Chun-Li in Third Strike with like her crouching medium kick. So every time I'm doing, let's say for Chun-Li for Third Strike, when I press crouching medium kick, I always buffer the double quarter circle forward motion. So I don't buffer when I see it hit. I buffer it while I'm pressing the crouching medium kick. And then once I see the crouching medium kick hit, then I press kick again. But the way I press it is I press 3 kicks. So I press heavy kick, medium kick, light kick. So if I'm pressing 3 of them like kind of like a piano, it gives me 3 chances for that super to come out when I'm buffering from the crouching medium kick. So that's why I mentioned earlier that like, oh, I find leverless really tiring when I play Third Strike. Is because when I'm playing Chun-Li, I don't just tap down medium kick. When I press down medium kick and then I press forward down forward every time. So it gets it's exhausting on leverless, but on the joystick, it just doesn't take that much like I guess effort when I'm doing that.
Okay, hi Justin. So you talked about this a little bit, a couple questions back. You said
The defensive play style isn't as prevalent in modern games as, was it kind of old school fighting games? Are there any other aspects of old school fighting games that aren't as relevant or prevalent anymore that you kind of miss, like you wish were a bit more, good or just done more often?
I guess the only other game that has kind of like multiple options to play offensively or defensively in today's time is probably King of Fighters 15. And maybe that's why it's not as popular compared to Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8, because it's like, I guess from a spectator's point of view, if you are new to fighting games and you watch somebody just crouch in the corner and just sit there, you would probably be like, this is boring, right? This is so boring. I don't know what's happening. And it's kind of like, I get it. It's like a lot of people, if you don't play fighting games, you don't understand what's going on. But if you see kind of like two characters fighting aggressively and just keep on attacking, it's more exciting for people to watch. And I think that's what the current cycle of companies are doing, like Capcom and Namco, where they're just super aggressive. Even Tekken 7 was a pretty defensive game, and they just nerfed it. They just said Tekken 8 is going to be aggressive, and you have to be in each other's faces to fight instead of just like backdashing or they have this thing called Korean backdash where you just couldn't catch the other player because the movement was just so good. So they kind of took that away, which is, I would say, pretty unfortunate, but I get it for the Twitch views, YouTube views. It's quite exciting when you're as a spectator. But I think if you're a fighting game player and you like to play more passive or defensively, you it I guess you kind of just have to adapt and play this rock paper scissors game. Even Punk went on record saying, yeah, he doesn't like Street Fighter 6 because it's too aggressive and it's too much guessing compared to at least Street Fighter 5, where you can play more reactive and react to everything. Because when you play reactive in Street Fighter 5, it's kind of you're playing defense there. It's not really offensive there.
All right. If current you had to face 2004 Jaewong in Third Strike, 2014 Jaewong in Marvel 3, and 2010 Jaewong in Marvel 2, do you think you could take all three of them down right now?
I think I could take myself in Third Strike right now, because I think I'm better at Third Strike now because of Fightcade, and there's more resources now on how to get better at the game. More players are better, so you have more practice, and there's people that make these training mode scripts where you can kind of recreate like training mode moments for you, so it's easier to practice different type of scenarios. For Marvel 3, I think my 2014 self would beat me now because I don't really play Marvel 3 as much. And looking at my Marvel 3 matches back in the day, I was much more faster. Marvel 2, I think I would probably lose in Marvel 2 as well too, because my hands are too old to move that fast. But Third Strike, I think I could take myself just because it's a much more slower game. And I think in terms of like the neutral aspect, I'm a lot better, and I'm doing a lot more advanced stuff now compared to what I was doing in 2004.
All right, what was the most stressful fighting game that you had to compete in?
Most stressful. I would say Street Fighter 5 was the most stressful fighting game. Because there was one year I made top 8 at Capcom Cup, and I was playing a character named Manat, who is kind of like this fortune teller character. And the way I played her was like super defensive, super reactive. So when I'm fighting against all these other players who are all about these burst damage situations, force themselves in an RPS situation where I have to guess for my life. And as a character, Manat, she doesn't have the best like get off of me tools, like defensive tools in terms of up close. She's more of a mid-range, far-range character. I was always so stressed playing that character against players from like Europe, Japan, South America, because they are trying to put me in situations that favor them in the 50-50 and it just sucked. So but it's but but if I can defend against that and I make them crack, I felt like I can tell the future from there. Like literally just tell the future on what they want to do and force themselves to make even more riskier mistakes. So it's like that's kind of the benefit of playing defensive characters is that you're able to kind of mind read what your opponent's going to do afterwards.
Yeah, hit it go first.
Do you have any like favorite movies or like TV shows or like types of music?
Man, I just watched Godzilla vs. Kong. I thought that was fun. But the problem is I don't really get to watch too many movies because I'm always like kind of like traveling. But I watch a lot of anime. I think sports animes are just so exciting to watch. So huge fan of sports animes. And my wife loves K-pop. So I actually got into K-pop because I listened to it as well too. So I would say that those are probably my three.
Quick follow-up. Do you watch One Piece?
I read One Piece. Yeah, I read one because I'm not trying to see these fillers, bro. These fillers are they sometimes they too long, but I mean they're doing good in the anime right now though.
That faces, but
Yeah. Hi, Justin. I just want to know, like, I really enjoying playing fighting game, and I want my friend to join this a fantastic game. But it's really hard. Like, you suggest like someone like literally don't know anything about it, and yeah. I was like trying to convince my friend like join this class, but like they're saying, oh, fighting game is too hard. It's really
Yeah.
like, what's the way like I can probably give some advice, like make them to really go into this world. Do
You know,
any
you
advice?
know what you have to do? You kind of have to handhold him, or handhold your friend to be like, why don't you try this out? Like, for example, like you sit them down and get them to learn how to parry. You know, throw a fireball, get them to learn how to parry. And then after they finally get a hang of it, try to get them to parry a EX fireball, like a two-hitting fireball. Right. And then after that, try and make them do 3 hits or 4 hits. Eventually, I think the the way Third Strike um gives you that feeling when you parry, it feels really good. So I think if you get your friend to like get really good at parrying and kind of nullifying these attacks, maybe it might get them interested. Because I think that's kind of what a lot of people like about Third Strike is like, bro, like just tapping this direction at this right timing nullifies the fireball. You turn blue, and then like the game gives you this big sound, like it really does feel good. So I think because a lot of times when I play against people or like people that never play fighting games and they see that there's a parry option in a game, that's all they want to do is try to parry the attacks and everything. So I think you just have to be there to tell them like how to do it and see if if that gets them the interest.
Yeah, I play Remy, so I really don't like parries. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean I think that's a really good character. If you stay full screen away and you're throwing like the forward boom and the low boom because you have to tap down for the low boom, right? And you get them the rhythm. It's kind of like a rhythm game at that point, right?
yeah,
And if
yeah,
you-
that's why I
yeah.
choose this character.
Yeah, so I think if you did that and they were able to defend against that, I think it would make them feel good.
All right, I will try. Thank you.
No problem.
I don't know the question. What is in your opinion, the sickest fighting game soundtrack?
Sickest fighting game soundtrack?
Blaze Blue? Blaze Blue. Alternate.
Oh,
Blaze was pretty good. Oh man, this is tough. I don't know. I feel like I feel like Third Strike actually has the craziest soundtrack. All the characters, all the stages, and even the character select screen. I mean, they hired like a really popular artist to make that track named Infinite, and even now people want him to come back and make more like Third Strike esque kind of music. So I think Third Strike because some stages are really good. Like Urian has an amazing stage. because it's very like rock metal-ish. Akuma is really epic as well too. Uh, I like Chung Li's as well. Yun is also really good. Ryu with the drums, that goes really hard as well too.
Any thoughts on the SF6 soundtrack?
SF6 soundtrack, I like Manone's theme. But that's probably about it. Yeah, I'm not like, they have a music player in the game where you could kind of change the music to like classic Street Fighter stuff. So I think I usually would rather have that as a feature, as a workable feature.
Hi, Justin.
Hi.
Back to the subject of parries. What was going through your mind when the Daigo parry happened, and how did you like recover from that?
So, so because there was no internet back in the day, or like it's like very like kind of AOL or like 56K modem type of thing, there was no videos of like someone pairing this like Chun-Li super. Now you could type on YouTube and like see all the supers being parried now, right? So you can see what it looks like. So it's kind of like you ever that show Mythbusters? It's kind of like that where like yeah, Chun-Li super is unparryable. Is that a fact or is that a myth? So that's what a lot of people in NA thought of it as. So when I did that super, I think of it as like, okay, I play classic Street Fighter or other fighting games where chip damage is like such a huge thing to like get the wins off in other games. So I thought that was the play. Clearly, it was not the play, and I lost that set, right? And the crazy part is after that match, once I lost, after Third Strike was finished, that was when Marvel's Capcom 2 Top 8 happened, and I won that tournament. So I guess as a kid, it didn't affect me because I was 18 at the time. I think I was still kind of just like I just want to play fighting games. But to me, I did not think how much like influence that clip was going to generate to everybody else, even up to this day. So I think Daigo had the same thing where he's like, to him, it's like another day that he does that. So we didn't think much about it until we realized probably like in 2009 where everyone kept talking about it. It got like esports moment of all time, the greatest esports moment of all time. I think it's still considered there, at least top two. And yeah, like I think it's kind of crazy that this American's home video camera that was captured in like this like poor quality is like still blowing up to this day. And it's pretty awesome because it's the reason why so many fighting game players now exist because they saw that moment. So it's really cool.
Awesome, thank you. Do you ever feel like the Daigo parry overshadowed other moments in your career? Because I know that before I even started playing fighting games, I knew you as the guy that Daigo parried.
I could see that. It's because the Daigo parry was so iconic, but I think it's one of those things where like it's also has helped me in so many ways as well too. Of like, oh, like I saw this clip. You're the Chung-Li guy and everything like that. So it actually got me a lot of like recognition. And I know sometimes people are just very bad at like taking their losses or like people poke at it. So I kind of just like have fun with it. Like yeah, like the other day I was doing a charity stream for kids in the hospital. And I was playing Third Strike, and then I know this guy's really good at parrying. So I threw the super out and he parried the whole super during the charity stream. And then it was funny because rollback happened during the parry. So it said KO, but like he kept parrying. I'm like, so I was just like, whoa, what happened? Like did rollback just screw me over? I post that clip to like 2 days ago, it's like 2 million views. So I just have fun with it at this point because to people, it's kind of like that meme, that ongoing joke, and people always have a laugh about it. So I just like don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your least favorite fighting game?
Least favorite fighting game. I actually don't like the Mortal Kombat series. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Mortal Kombat. I think it's because I think visually it looks great. It's very fun if you're playing with like a group of friends. But I guess because I've been playing competitively, I just have that. I look at fighting games differently compared to I guess the casual player. So when I'm doing a jump in and then going for a combo, I hate how Mortal Kombat works because if you do a jump in into for a street in a Capcom game or an SNK game or any other anime fighting game, once you land, that's when you press the next button after a jump in, right? To continue the combo. Mortal Kombat, once you're doing the jump in, you have to implement the next hit while you're still in the air. So the game is registering the hit. If you press the button when you land, your combo will not connect. So that gets me really upset because to me, I just feel like I know that's by design, but in my head, I'm like, that's poorly designed in my personal opinion. So it's always been like that since Mortal Kombat, like during the PS2 era, they never changed it. So I just personally hate the fact that I have to dial a combo instead of like reacting to see if a button hit to go for either a grab or a combo. So that's my personal gripe of it.
Okay.
Do you ever feel like playing fighting games has like been able to help you in other areas of life? Whether it be like playing fighting games has helped you like pick up another game easier, or if like the mentality has helped you.
Oh, it did. So growing up, going to high school, like when I was in ninth grade, I was like I think I was pretty dumb. Like I was pretty stupid. Like I was a bottom 10 student and everything. But once I understood how to play fighting games and how combos work and how frame data works and how things connect with each other, like the following like semester, I was like a top 10 student. Like everything just clicked. They just opened my mind. I don't know why it just did, but for me, playing fighting games taught me to how to understand how to study better, how to just like memorize better. So I would say it really helped me in that regard.
Let's do yeah. And
I was just gonna ask, after all these years, what keeps you playing fighting games?
What keeps me playing fighting games? You know, I was thinking about that as well before the pandemic. Like, why am I still playing fighting games? Like, I'm just traveling around the world chasing this trophy and everything. I felt like that's all I was doing. So it just felt like a job, right? And it was a job. But once the pandemic happened and we could not travel anymore, and I started to experiment playing all these other fighting games on Fightcade, these different arcade games I never gave an opportunity for. It really showed how much I appreciate and love fighting games. So I literally spent like my whole pandemic just like learning all these different other fighting games and just playing them. And there's no reason for me to learn and play them because it's not like it's gonna earn me like thousands and thousands of dollars playing a tournament. It was just learning and playing the game with the small online community, and it felt really fun. It gave me that arcade vibe when I first went to the arcade as a kid. So I think that's kind of what rejuvenated my love for fighting games.
Yeah, just to like reverse my boy's question from earlier, are there any other aspects of your life that you've been able to apply to fighting games specifically, or like non-traditional sources of like experience that you helped improve?
Um, I mean, fighting games is also the reason why I was able to meet like my family, like meet my wife, and yeah, just get married and with her and everything. I would say without fighting games, that probably wouldn't have happened, right? So the reason why I say that is because I wanted to go to a specific tournament in Northern California. Like one of the best players in Korea was going to this tournament in San Francisco. So I decided to show up, and that's kind of where I met her. So that's one aspect. Also, I feel like gaming with fighting games makes me when I look at games differently, it gave me a lot of opportunities where a lot of companies, like game companies, will ask me to do like QA for them or consult like how the battle design is. So it gave me a lot of experience with just like helping develop like multiple different type of fighting games and multiple even action single player games as well too.
Yeah. You talk about you really enjoy watching anime. There's a fighting game anime called High School Girl. Like, do you have any like idea about that? Because like I have listened of your experience. Like, there's a lot of plot. Like the main character go out didn't
Yeah.
event didn't like. Is that from your experience or like? Because I know Daigo is probably in the like helping make this anime. Like, but I don't know about your like.
So the directors and producer, they interviewed me for in before season 2 came out. And I gave them kind of like they were asking a lot of questions with like my upbringing, how I like did in the arcade, what was it like, and I guess they used some of that to create that story for season 2. So yeah, I didn't even know that my like they like somebody pointed out, yo, my name was in the credits for us like special thanks or whatever.
Yeah.
So I helped in that aspect. But I mean, High School Girl is great. I watched so much of it, like I love it. And yeah, I hope season 3 comes out because ultimately I think it was a great tell of like how arcade culture was back in the day.
Yeah.
Last question. Have you ever gone through a slump and like kind of like experience like doubting yourself and your ability to win? And like if so, like how did you move past that?
Hmm. I think that happened more that slump you're talking about happened probably more of the end of Street Fighter 5, like end of like the end of the pandemic, because that was when I was thinking like, okay, because there's no tournaments left, or you can't there's no way there's no way to travel because all the tournaments are canceled due to COVID. Like what would I do, right? I don't want to play in this online tournament circuit because the online rollback was very bad for Street Fighter 5. So then I became more of like focus on YouTube, like on the content creation side, on preserving nostalgia history for fighting games. So I started doing that. And then once the pandemic finished and things are going back to normal, I felt like I kind of lost that competitive drive because one, I was super happy with how content creation was going, and two, I hated leaving my home because I have a 5-year-old daughter. So I think I don't think it's a slump, but I think I was just kind of satisfied with like not competing as much anymore. So because of like I guess I have different goals that I want to like preserve and focus on.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. It's 6:30 now, so I don't want to keep you any longer
Oh,
than
yeah, no problem.
but yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much. I'm sure everybody else here.
Let's go, Justin.
No problem. I'm glad that all of you took this class, and I hope you guys, keep playing fighting games. And yeah, it'll be really cool for any of you guys to like try to like go to like a tournament or anything, because the experience of going to a tournament is like so much more insane. Like it's crazy. It's a great feeling. So yeah, hopefully you guys learn something from just playing Third Strike, because Third Strike's it's a very fun game, a very hard game, but it's really satisfying when you do specific things in the game. Yeah, hopefully your last exam, your final exam, is not trying to land a Daigo parry.
Double elim, I think.
Yeah, double elim tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. All right. Well, good
We get
luck
a
to
little bit of a
everybody.
taste of the local.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank
Oh,
you
you
so
went to a local?
Oh no, I'm saying like giving him a bit of a taste of going to a local, getting
Yeah.
O2.
Well,
Yeah.
just make sure you don't if when because you guys are new, try to learn not to mash. If you learn to not to mash, it really like opens up like how you're supposed to press buttons. That's like the hardest thing to do. I mean, I grew up mashing, but then once I figured out mashing is the wrong way to play a fighting game, you learn so much more fast. You learn how to play the game so much faster after that.
Yeah, we've definitely tried time to stop mashing, but some Keep doing it. Yeah, thank you so much. We're gonna end this meeting here. Yeah, hope you have a good rest of your night.
Yeah, you too. Have a great one.
Everyone say thank you.
Bye.